So this is the Rose program. These are the three main components. And so the first component is the micro enterprise business trainings. This is broken into two courses, which we've worked with established curriculum partners. So one being the Chalmers Center and the other being a startup accelerator program for African entrepreneurs, to run a 6-month training course followed by an additional 6-month training course where they learn basic business finance, sales and marketing, bookkeeping, and savings and emergency preparedness. These women take these concepts and put them into action immediately. And we see 100% income growth every single month. So on average, in the 1 year micro enterprise business training, we saw last year for 54 women, a 1,200% income growth from $56 a month at the beginning to $675 a month of business income growth. Also in that program, women apply and receive startup grants for their small business ideas. And those are an average size of $300. They pitch their business to global investors, which last year we did virtually. And then they get a business registration, which actually takes them from being an informal micro enterprise into a small business in the formal economy. The alumni growth year is in research and development right now, but we're connecting women in Nairobi that have gone through the Rose program with people like you, with business people from around the world that are volunteering an hour of their time a month to connect one-on-one via Zoom with our graduating entrepreneurs. These coaches serve as an accountability partner as women apply and receive microloans to continue growing their businesses. Also, we see that women are able to mentor other women coming into the business. And so you see here on the right, this is Teresia. When Teresia joined Rose, she had no income. She didn't have a business, she didn't have a job. She has 7 children, and she's a single mom. Teresia received a startup grant from Rose of those fabrics you see us giving her right there. She turned that into a fabric stand and was able to employ 10 women and increase her savings to $700 within 2 years. Teresia started this fabric stand, and then through our Lean Startup for Micro Enterprise program, she learned to sell from business to business instead of business to consumer. And because of that growth, Teresia is now selling fabrics and baby clothes directly to hospitals and to expectant pregnant mothers. Teresia is a shining example of what a Rose woman can do, uplifting her 7 children out of poverty, creating 10 jobs for other vulnerable women in her community, and living a dignified life. And now you see Teresia on the cover of our Lean Startup for Micro Enterprise program, actually discipling and mentoring the next group of Rose women. So these are some of our impact statistics from last year and then from the beginning. So since inception, we have worked with 325 entrepreneurs, supported 1,300 children to escape poverty, receive the real gospel of Christ, and live now freely with strength and dignity. So last year, 54 Rose women generated $150,000 in small business revenue. These women also created 90 jobs, even during a global pandemic when more people around the world were unemployed. Last year, we saw, as I said before, this 1,200% income growth from our baseline of $56 a month to $675 a month at the end of the program. And we record monthly their business financials. And that's where we get these impact stats. So the women learn to actually keep themselves accountable to their bookkeeping every single month. So our financial growth as the organization, Rose started in 2018 with a budget of $20,000 funded by myself and our board of directors. By 2019, we raised $100,000, and last year we raised almost $200,000. And this year we are trying to double because we are growing. This year, we're in 3 communities instead of 1 community in Kenya. And this growth is to prepare us for next year, where we plan on being in 5 Kenyan communities and 1 pilot community in Uganda. You can see here also our sources of income. We have a strong individual presence in our incomes. Individuals like you are what laid the foundation for the growth of Rose. Our individual supporters are so important to us. We also receive grants from private family foundations and churches. So our projections, we have a steady growth curve that we're looking at. We've identified these 5 communities for next year, plus this pilot partner in Uganda, where we're very hopeful of continued growth in the future. But most importantly, looking at the graph on the right, our programs have an exponential impact on poverty alleviation for future generations. For every woman that is in the Rose program, 4 children are lifted out of poverty. That means that these children, their moms can pay their medical bills. Their moms can send them to school where they didn't get to go to school themselves. These children will shape the next generation. So currently, we are raising $50,000 to support 40 women to go through the Rose program. Right now, we are running our programs through a research and development hub, and now through a local NGO partner that has actually paid Rose to deliver our programs to vulnerable women. We are now growing through local churches as well, and that is what this partnership is for. We are raising $50,000 to work with local churches in the slums of Nairobi to run another cohort for 40 more women. And so if you're interested in getting involved in Rose, there are many different ways to get involved. You can become a coach and work with a woman entrepreneur one-on-one via Zoom once a month. You can become a financial supporter. We always need more support, and it's people like you that keep us going. And for every $1 invested in Rose, a woman that graduates the Rose program will generate $6.77. Every dollar has a tremendous impact on these women's lives and the lives of their children. So that's all I have for you this morning, but I will open up for questions. And thank you so much for having me and just for listening and hearing about Rose Women's Foundation.
Well, Allie, we really appreciate you taking some time this morning, and really an unbelievable program, and unbelievable what you've done in founding it and getting it to this point. I think I speak for everybody to one, say thank you, but also it's a good thing you took after your mom, because Dad wouldn't have been able to handle all of this. So really amazing work, and I'm sure there are folks with some questions. Folks can just jump off of mute and jump in, or they can use the chat feature, which I will try to follow down below. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, this is Ellen Jane. Do you have a relationship with Catholic Relief Services or other organizations such as that? And they serve SERRV, the selling fair trade items. What sort of outside relationships do you have? Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you so much. So we do not have a relationship with the Catholic Relief Services, but we do have a relationship with the Global Catholic Church based in Kenya. So one of my Kenyan board members is the CFO for the Catholic Bishops of Kenya. And so we've actually worked with the Catholic Church in Nairobi. That's where our first offices were held. And so we've worked with the sisters in Nairobi, and that's a relationship that we're excited to grow. We don't have any fair trade partnerships yet. It would be something valuable to us. But one of the things that's key about Rose that I think is very different than other organizations is that we don't actually tell the women what products to make. So the businesses are soap, some sell water, some sell 60% sell food items to the local community. Some make jewelry, some are making patchwork bags. And so we really believe that the innovation for it to be sustainable has to come from them. And that we can't be a salesperson for them, but that we can provide connections and a network. And so something like what you're describing, Serve, and a fair trade network, even in the Catholic branch, would be extremely beneficial just to connect with and plug into.
So one question came over. Gustavo asked, how has COVID affected your work, connecting internationally to local teams, fundraising, other aspects of the business?
That's a great question. It's affected us in a myriad of different ways. In the very beginning, we had to pivot because I was living in Kenya for the first 2 years of this organization. And so for me personally, that was the biggest change. Is while I was in America, I had to stay. But what that did for us, it actually created local leadership that was stronger than when I was there. And so it's key to our growth in the future that we continue to build our local leadership. In terms of the women's businesses, many of the women's businesses shut down. But because of our savings and emergency preparedness training that was very timely right in the middle of COVID last year, we were able to still deliver training in smaller groups spread out throughout the slums rather than coming together for a big group meeting. But these women also very timely last year were able to get their startup grants right at the beginning of COVID. So when other businesses were shutting down, these women might have been the only tomato producer or tomato seller in her local community. So she was able to continue her business even when others were shutting down. We really did defy the stereotype last year because most women in these communities were jobless, were not creating jobs, and incomes were depleting. Whereas we saw massive growth in income and created 90 jobs. But there have been health effects. Last year, unfortunately, one of our women passed away, and we think it was because of COVID. And so another thing to remember, and seeing even in the back of this picture, health and sanitation, a basic human need that we take for granted so often, is just not, it's just not possible where they live. Malaria is a big problem. And so this was almost just as big of an issue as malaria is on a day-to-day life for them.
Others?
Hey, Allie.
Hi, John. Thank you so
Hi.
much for being here.
Good morning. I've heard you talk about some of the tragic circumstances that some of these women, the backgrounds of some of these women, where they've come from and what they've experienced and so forth. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, for women in Kenya, 60% of all women in Kenya by the age of 45 are single moms. And these women, one story in particular, when I was there as a student, one of the interviews that broke my heart, that drove me to do this. This woman is 21, so was I. She had 4 children, one on her hip, and she's telling me, she's crying to me, that her husband walked out that morning and took all of their money. And this woman was left with 4 children with a shanty home and had no idea how she was going to put food on the table that night. But she was still sitting in an interview with me, and I couldn't understand why. She was desperate for help. She was desperate for an opportunity to do something that could make her life better. The extreme lack of access to education is extremely detrimental to the development of women, particularly of young girls and women. In Kenya, it's often prioritized that the eldest children go to school, particularly the older boys. It's a highly patriarchal society where women are a second-class citizen. And so empowering these women with voice and with community to share their stories with one another, to say we are stronger together. And in Swahili, we say pamoja tunaweza, which means together we can. And these women will chant that because really they can't do it alone. And that's one of the beautiful things about Rose, like this graduating class you see on the screen. These women were broken, they were destitute, and now they have a sisterhood in Christ to grow small businesses and support one another to escape these extreme conditions. And we're also working with this NGO partner that we're working with. We're working with 25 young girls under the age of 25. So we're calling them our 25 under 25. And they have all been sexually abused, become pregnant, and ostracized from their communities. And these young girls have children, and they need to figure out how they're going to provide for them. So this organization has paid Rose to come in and deliver a spiritual and economic development program. So we are so excited to be able to work with these young moms that have faced just incomparable adversity in their lives.
Sorry, I'm chiming in. My name's Mary McCormick. And I was curious how the men in the community are responding. As you mentioned, very patriarchal society, you know, the men as well as the teenage boys.
Yeah, and that's a great question. The men actually, and one of these women, Pauline Matete, she's actually right here in this photo. Pauline and I were talking on the phone a couple of weeks ago. I did a coaching call with her, and she told me, Allie, Rose has changed my life and my family's life. My husband is so excited that I am a Rose woman. He said that he has never seen women like the women of Rose because they are so strong and confident and dignified. And so we have seen that some of the husbands of these women, they are actually so excited to support their wives, to be a part of this, because now the women can confidently contribute to the household bills. The women are often the ones that pay for school fees. And if they're not, no one is. The women are also the ones to pay for food. And if they don't, often families don't eat. There is a major problem in the slums of Nairobi and in many other poverty-stricken communities in East Africa, where men typically are hopeless too. And they often will drink away their sorrows and drink away the money. Men do not have a strong connection to the family unit in a lot of cases too, which is why so many of these women are single mothers. Also, the presence of the church the church is there, but often in these poverty-stricken communities, women get tossed to the wayside. Women get lost. And so we are really bringing women back to the church, or bringing women that have never been in the church before back to that community. In terms of young boys, we haven't worked much with young boys, I will just say, but we see the positive impact on young boys and girls going to school and having healthcare by empowering their moms.
So probably time for one more if anybody has a final question.
Allie, one of the things that I like about your program is that it's centered around that parable of teach a man to fish You know, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And a lot of the organizations that Sheree and I are involved with, you know, fit that mantra. And Rose Women's Foundation is exactly that. I've been so impressed with what you've been able to do in such a short period of time. I have a friend in my Rotary Club that has a foundation in Nairobi and or in Kenya, and he heard your presentation and he told me, he said, you've been able to do more in, you know, a year or two than he's been able to do in over 10 years of working in Kenya. So it's what you've done is very, very impressive. And one thing that I didn't hear you touch on, but I know you've been working on is your coaching program. And I think it's full right now, but which may be why you didn't bring it up, but it could be something in the future as it opens up and you expand it that some people at CBN might be interested in. If you could take a minute or two just to touch on that.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much. I think those are all great points. And yes, we are very focused on teaching a woman to fish. And rather than, we never give handouts at Rose. We really do equip women with the skills, access to finance, and the church to be able to lift herself out of poverty and then her community. We also, I think, through building local leaders, we are able to accomplish so much more because it is internally driven. It's driven by women that want to make a difference in their communities. So it's definitely a unique model. And it's just, I think we've seen such massive growth over the last 2.5 years because it's God. This is God's work. Everything we do, God is at the forefront. And he's just made it very clear that he will bless where we go if we go with him. And then the coaching program. Yes, you can definitely still register. We have a short wait list right now, but our coaching program is 1 hour a month commitment with additional options for Q&A calls. We actually have one this afternoon. And John's wife, Sheree Boas, has been leading that program for me as a volunteer, as our volunteer marketing director. And Sheree has done a phenomenal job just coordinating with all of these global coaches. We have 16 coaches or 19 coaches right now coaching 16 entrepreneurs. And these coaches, we have people from California, people even from, there's one coach in China. And so we have people all over the world that are giving their time and their resources. So our coaches also commit to sponsoring a woman for 1 year of the program. So that costs us $100 a month to support one woman through the full program, which is really just such a cost-effective investment because it sets her up and 4 children to escape poverty for the rest of their lives. So please, if you are interested, you can find more information about the coaching program and you can find more information about how to donate on our website at rosewomensfoundation.org. And also, please feel free to email me directly. I would love to hear from you. And my email's on the screen is Allie, A-L-L-I-E, Amoroso at rosewomensfoundation.org.
Well, that's fantastic, and we will we'll put this presentation up on our website. We'll send this PowerPoint around to the folks that participated this morning, and also that'll be included on our website as well. And I know a number of folks will do what they can to continue to spread the word. And just a really amazing organization, amazing effort. Certainly inspirational, doesn't seem to do it justice, but really appreciate you being here this morning, appreciate the work. I want to thank John Boas, obviously, for suggesting and connecting us, and I don't think there could be a better fit in terms of our organization and learning a little bit about what you're doing. So we appreciate you being here, and hope that things continue to go well as we get back to hopefully a more normal normal environment. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff, and John, for making the connection. Thank you so much for having me. It is such a blessing. I really appreciate all of your time this morning.
Excellent. Well, we've got a little bit of time here for the rest of the group, and I always like to give some of our guests or new members or others an opportunity to say hello and introduce themselves or talk a little bit about what they're doing. If there's anybody that's joined us this morning that wants to say hello. I believe you're on mute.
Now,
Excellent.
good morning, everyone. My name is Trin Lee. I am a marketing rep of Serpro of Rockville and Olney. Our owners are longtime members of this organization, and I'm fairly new, and I'm just very excited to be getting to know you all. And thank you so much, Allie, for this amazing work, for sharing your work with us. I'm going to look into your website and learn more about it and see how we can help. But thank you all.
Well, thank you and welcome. Great to have you, and look forward to having you in the future. So thanks for saying hello. Others? Wow, it's not normally a shy crew. I guess folks haven't had coffee or All right. Well, I won't keep folks. It's a Friday morning, and I know folks have places to go and people to see, and some of us who made down to Florida, maybe playing a little golf later. I'm not sure. But as a reminder, our next event is Friday, May 7th, another breakfast event, and we will send some information around about that. We've got some other upcoming events. We hope very much to be back in person soon, and so that we can actually gather and be together. But other than that, unless anybody has any needs or leads or anything for the good of the order.
No, just want to say thank you for a great program. Well done.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with it. Allie's the one that gets all the thanks, and John. But if nothing else, I will have everybody have a great weekend, and we will be back in touch soon. Allie, thank you again, and good luck with everything. And hopefully we'll be back in touch soon.